What is up, aimers, and welcome to this guide on how to properly use Stone Rain. I've had numerous questions regarding rulings about this card from fellow Ranger enthusiasts, and plenty of long debates about it with opponents on Talishar as well. So in this video, I'll be discussing the common and important rulings related to Stone Rain, as well as how to best utilize its effect when paired with cards like Deadeye. And if you've made it this far already, and like seeing the random amalgamation of Flesh and Blood content that I put out, then feel free to subscribe. Now that we're well-established friends, I will start off by discussing how the Stone Rain effect interacts with both inertia tokens and Seek and Destroy. Based on my games so far, it is clear that most people don't know how the different interactions work, and that keeps me up at night. All three of these effects trigger during our opponent's end phase, and as it is our opponent's turn, they get to choose which player's triggers resolve first. This means that if you have multiple triggers during their end phase, your opponent can decide if they resolve their own before or after your ones, but that is all they get to decide, which is important, as you're the one in control of how your own triggers are ordered during their end phase. And this is important because Stone Rain and Seek and Destroy are both our triggers. So if we're able to pair these two effects together, then we can choose for Stone Rain to resolve before the Seek and Destroy, meaning the card they've banished face down, instead of going into their arsenal during the end step, it gets put into the graveyard and they don't get that card back. Great success. Inertia works a little differently. When we give our opponent an inertia token, that token is under their control. This means that during the end phase, it is their trigger, and therefore they can order your triggers to resolve second. So what happens is the inertia, being their trigger, will resolve, and then Stone Rain resolves. They get to keep that card and tuck it away into Arsenal. Partial success. So to sum up, pairing Stone Rain with Seek and Destroy is way better than pairing it with inertia, as it's more disruptive. In fact, using Lace with inertia and Stone Rain together is a total waste of said inertia because your opponent gets an arsenal at the end of it all. We'll now move on to the next discussion point of the video, and that is when we find ourselves hitting our opponent with both Stone Rain and Deadeye, which happens to be the dream combo. You know what they say, when it rains it pours. I can tell that the big question in your mind is, what on hit should I resolve first? My general thought process on this is that I resolve Deadeye first if I want to try and snipe the best card from my opponent's hand, or if I want to gain the most information. And I resolve Stone Rain first if I want to cause as much disruption as possible to my opponent's upcoming turn. In the early game, I am more likely to try and snipe the best card as I duke it out with my opponent for advantage, meaning Deadeye resolves first. And in the late game, I want my opponent to have as bad a turn as possible so I can create more space for myself or just increase my chances of not dying, which means I resolve Stone Rain first. I would say that this approach applies to most heroes. For example, against Florian and Verdance, I am looking to do the same thing in both phases of the game. Early on, I try to snipe things like Felling the Crown, Plow Under, or any other decomposed cards, and then later in the game, I get rid of whichever card poses the most threat to me. There are, of course, exceptions to this. For example, in the early game, if Stone Rain is paired with Deadeye and Seek and Destroy, which is the Dream combo, then it is strictly better to resolve the Stone Rain first, because you get just the same amount of hand information by resolving the Deadeye second, and they're never getting that card that they banish with Stone Rain back because it goes into the graveyard during the end step, so it's just more disruptive. If you're playing against Fatigue, it might be better to resolve Deadeye first in the endgame because A, they don't pose as much of a threat to you offensively, so you don't really need to worry about them having an explosive turn, and B, you might be able to snipe something like a D-React that they're going to tuck away for their arsenal. There are probably more scenarios that I haven't listed off at you that warrant a change in approach, but I just wanted to give these examples to show that there is a lot of advantage to be gained by resolving these correctly, and what I would consider correct depends on several dynamic factors, which is why I love this game. So much to consider just for one simple attack. And with that, we enter the concluding segment of this video. Hopefully you've learned something new, and hopefully I will come across fewer people misunderstanding how these effects work so that I can have a better time playing online. Although now that I think about it, in a tournament setting that works in my favor, which means I'm hurting my chance of success by explaining all of this. Have a good day.